The space station hung silently in the darkness of the Arendor sector, a gleaming jewel orbiting a distant blue planet. From afar, it looked peaceful, calm, untouched. But inside, the station was alive with activity. Technicians moved quickly along the corridors, guards patrolled the main halls, and the hum of energy cores filled the air. Lieutenant Cale Draven walked steadily along the metallic walkway, his eyes scanning the area with trained precision. He was a human soldier, part of the Joint Interstellar Security Force, and his duty was clear: keep the station safe, no matter the cost. His hands rested lightly on the holster at his side, and his mind ran through every possible threat that could appear. The morning had started as any other. Routine checks, standard patrols, and quiet observation. Cale had seen this sector many times before. It was far from the front lines, yet there was always a tension beneath the surface. Something felt different today, though. The air seemed heavier, and the hum of the station felt off, like the heartbeat of a giant creature just before it moves. He shook the feeling off and continued his patrol, rounding the corner near the central docking bay. The bay was vast, a maze of spacecraft lined up like soldiers ready for inspection. Engineers worked on repairs while pilots ran final checks before departure. Cale's eyes were drawn to the newest ship, a sleek vessel belonging to Princess Lyra herself. She was the heir to the Arendor Empire, a young woman of intelligence and courage who had spent her life learning to lead. Kyle had met her briefly during official duties, and he had been impressed by her calm and composure. She moved through the bay gracefully, inspecting her ship with a critical eye. But today she seemed distracted, her gaze flicking toward the observation deck, as if she sensed danger she could not name. Cale's instinct screamed a warning before anything happened. A distant vibration shook the floor, faint at first, then growing stronger. His head snapped up. Red warning lights flashed across the station, accompanied by an ear-piercing alarm that echoed through the metal corridors. The hum of energy cores was replaced by the roar of an explosion in the distance. Smoke and sparks erupted from one of the main conduits, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. The station had come under attack. People screamed, running in every direction. Alarms blared continuously, lights flickered, and emergency protocols were triggered. Cale sprinted toward the source of the chaos, his boots clanging against the metal floor. The explosion had caused a cascade of damage, debris falling from above, and smoke making it difficult to see. In the middle of it all, he caught sight of Lyra. She was frozen, trapped under a heavy beam that had fallen from the upper deck. Her hands were pinned, and her face was a mixture of fear and pain. Cale didn't hesitate. Adrenaline surged through him as he charged forward, dodging sparks and fallen metal. He reached the beam just in time, placing his hands against it with every ounce of strength he possessed. The metal was heavy, but Cale's training, combined with sheer determination, allowed him to shift it just enough for Lyra to slip free. He pulled her back, pressing her against the wall, shielding her from the continuing explosions. A section of the ceiling above them collapsed with a deafening crash, and Cale's body took the full force. Pain exploded through his chest, and darkness began to close in around him. Even as he fell, his mind clung to one thought: the princess was safe. Lyra's wide eyes stared down at him, fear and gratitude mingling in their depths. She reached out to touch his arm, but he was already losing consciousness. The world went black. When Cale opened his eyes again, he was no longer on the station. The familiar metallic walls, the smell of smoke and machinery, were gone. He was lying on soft, glowing grass beneath a canopy of luminous trees that pulsed with gentle light. The air smelled sweet and alien, filled with scents he could not name. Strange creatures scuttled in the shadows, and enormous flowers swayed as if in time with some silent rhythm. Cale pushed himself up, taking in the strange surroundings, his heart still pounding from the explosion and the fall. He saw her then, Princess Lyra, sitting a few feet away, her wounds bandaged by hands he could not see. She looked stronger than before, though her eyes still carried the memory of the near-death experience. As Cale tried to stand, a soft, melodic voice spoke from all around him. Do not fear, human. You are safe here. Kale froze. His eyes darted across the clearing. Standing around him were beings unlike any he had ever imagined. They were tall and slender, their skin semi-transparent and glimmering with a soft light. Their eyes were large, luminous, and intelligent, and they radiated a calm authority. They were the guardians of Arendor, protectors of the princess and her people. Kale had heard stories of them in whispers, but never believed he would meet them in person. Lyra rose gracefully, moving to stand beside him. Kale, she said softly, you saved me. You risked everything to protect me. I owe you my life. The events of the past few minutes, or hours, seemed surreal. Where are we? He finally asked, his voice hoarse. This is our sanctuary, one of the guardians replied, stepping forward. You are safe here, but your presence is unusual. The explosion on the station was no accident. There are forces that wish to harm the princess. You have been brought here for protection, and perhaps for purpose. Kyle felt the weight of the words settle on him. The station, the attack, his injury. It was all part of something much larger than he had realized. He glanced at Lyra, seeing determination in her eyes despite the fear he knew must be there. I don't understand, he admitted. Why me? Why was I here when it happened?
Because you acted without thinking of yourself. That is rare.
That is why you are alive and here with me now. You are human, yet brave beyond measure. The Arendor Empire has watched humanity closely. There are qualities in your people, resilience, courage, ingenuity, that our allies and enemies alike have taken notice of. Perhaps it is not chance that brought you here. The guardians shifted around them, their presence both protective and imposing. Kyle felt both awe and unease. He had fought in battles before, but nothing like this. Here, on a distant world, surrounded by beings he barely understood, the stakes were higher than anything he had imagined. Lyra stepped closer, her voice calm but insistent. Kale, I need you. Not just to save me, but to help protect my people. There are threats coming, ones that the station alone cannot withstand. I cannot do this without someone like you by my side. Kale's mind raced. He was human, alone in an alien world, facing enemies he did not yet know. Yet, looking at Lyra, at the Guardians, he felt something stir inside him. The same courage that had driven him to shield her from the explosion now surged again. He straightened, pain from his injuries momentarily forgotten. Then I will help, he said. Tell me what I need to do. Lyra's eyes brightened slightly. First, you must recover your strength. The Guardians will guide you. Then, we must learn who orchestrated the attack on the station, and why. Every moment counts. The enemy will not wait, and neither can we. Kael nodded. Around him, the alien forest seemed to breathe, alive with light and motion. He could feel the pulse of the world, the hidden life, and the promise of danger lurking just beyond sight. Yet, despite the fear, he felt ready. He had saved the princess once, and he would do so again if needed. His duty was clear, his resolve unwavering. The Guardians moved closer, surrounding Kael and Lyra, their movements precise and silent. Kael observed them carefully, noting their coordination, their silent communication. These beings were not just protectors. They were warriors, scholars, and sentinels of a civilization that had endured countless threats.
He realized that surviving here would require more than strength. It would require learning, adapting, and trusting those who were not like him.
Lyra extended her hand, a gesture of both invitation and trust. Kael took it, feeling a spark of connection and responsibility. He could see the determination in her expression, the weight of her future on her shoulders. She was more than a princess. She was a leader, a symbol, and someone who had chosen to trust him. As Kale followed her deeper into the forest, the alien flora and fauna shifting around them, he understood that his life had changed forever. He had left behind the familiar world of human conflict, stepping into a reality where humans were outsiders, yet needed. Where courage was tested not just in battle, but in diplomacy, trust, and understanding of a world beyond imagination. The memory of the explosion at the station lingered in his mind. The sound, the chaos, the fear in Lyra's eyes. But now, with the Guardians around him and the princess by his side, Kale felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had survived, he had protected life, and he would continue to do so, no matter what dangers lay ahead. In the glowing forest of Arindor, the human soldier walked beside the alien princess, unaware of the trials, revelations, and battles that awaited them. Yet, one thing was certain. He would face them with courage, ingenuity, and an unwavering determination to protect those who could not protect themselves. The journey had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. Kale followed Lyra through the glowing forest, every step revealing wonders and dangers he could never have imagined. The trees towered above them like ancient guardians, their leaves radiating soft light that shifted in color with the subtle movement of the air. Strange creatures peeked from behind luminescent shrubs, their eyes reflecting curiosity and intelligence. Kale's senses were alert, every sound and movement drawing his attention. He had fought in countless battles on human soil, faced death in ways he thought impossible, but nothing compared to this. "Stay close," Lyra instructed, her voice calm yet firm. Her hand brushed his lightly as they moved forward. "The Guardians can detect danger long before it reaches us, but you must remain vigilant too." Kale nodded, adjusting his posture to move quietly. He had learned the hard way that rushing into unknown territory often led to mistakes. Here, every movement, every decision mattered. The Guardians followed silently, their presence both comforting and intimidating. Their tall forms glided gracefully over the ground, their glowing eyes scanning for threats invisible to Kale. He realized that the safety of the princess depended not just on his courage, but also on his ability to learn quickly. As they moved deeper into the forest, Lyra began to speak. "The attack on the station was no accident. Someone knew I would be there. Someone wanted me dead." Kale listened carefully, noting the controlled fear in her tone. She was a leader, and leaders carried burdens, even in moments of vulnerability. "Do you know who it was?" Kale asked, keeping his voice low. "Not yet, but we will find out. My people have enemies both within and outside the Empire, rival factions, ambitious warlords, even some who serve in the Council. The explosion was designed to kill me before I could learn the truth." Kale's jaw tightened. He had faced treachery before, but this felt different. The stakes were higher, and the battlefield extended far beyond what he had known. "Then we need to move fast," he said. "If they can strike here, they will strike again." Lyra nodded. "The Guardians have a hidden sanctuary where I can recover fully. It is shielded from detection and will give us time to plan." They walked in silence for a few moments, the only sounds the soft rustle of leaves and the distant calls of alien creatures. Kale's mind raced, trying to process the situation. He had saved the princess, but that act alone had thrust him into a conflict far larger than any he had faced. The human world felt distant now, almost unreal, as if it had existed only in memory. Here, in this alien forest, he was an outsider, yet indispensable. Finally, they arrived at a clearing where a structure emerged from the ground, built of crystal-like material that shimmered with inner light. The sanctuary was unlike anything Kale had seen. It radiated energy that seemed to pulse with life, a protective barrier that hummed softly, as if alive. Guardians stationed at the entrance nodded to Lyra as she approached. "You may rest now," one of them said. Its voice was melodic, carrying authority without harshness. Kale remained standing, eyes scanning the perimeter. "I will not leave your side," he said quietly, though he knew the Guardians were far more capable than any human. Lyra gave a small smile.
"I trust you, Kale, but the sanctuary is secure."
"For now, you must allow yourself to rest too." Inside, the sanctuary was spacious, filled with natural light that shifted in rhythm with the glowing walls. Pools of water reflected the luminescence, and soft platforms of woven energy provided places to sit or lie down. Kale sank onto one, exhaustion overtaking him. His body ached from the explosion, from shielding Lyra, from the fall. Yet, even as fatigue pressed on him, his mind remained alert. Lyra tended to her own injuries, using a small device that emitted a gentle blue light, healing the cuts and bruises inflicted by the blast. Kale watched, fascinated by her precision and calm demeanor. "How?" "All my life," Lyra replied. "Every member of my family is prepared for danger. But we cannot prepare for everything. That is why we rely on allies."
Her eyes met his, full of meaning. "You are an ally, Kale."
"More than that, you are a protector in a way most cannot be." Kale felt a mix of pride and unease. He had saved her, yes, but he was still human, fragile, limited, mortal. Here, in a world of beings with advanced abilities and technologies beyond his understanding, he was an anomaly. Yet the trust Lyra placed in him gave him purpose, a reason to fight beyond instinct. Over the next hours, Kale and Lyra discussed the events leading up to the explosion. Lyra explained the political tensions in her empire, the factions vying for power, and the fragile alliances that balanced the interstellar realm. Kale listened carefully, noting patterns, inconsistencies, and possible threats. The more he learned, the clearer it became. The explosion was only the beginning. The forces arrayed against Lyra were powerful, cunning, and patient. Suddenly, the sanctuary trembled slightly, a subtle vibration that Kale immediately recognized as an alert. He sprang to his feet. "What is that?" he asked, scanning the room. "The enemy is close," one of the Guardians said, stepping forward. "They are scouts testing our defenses. It is not yet dangerous, but we must be vigilant." Kale's hands went to his holster, though he knew the weapons he carried might not match the technology of the Arendor universe. Yet, he also knew something important. Ingenuity, strategy, and courage could overcome advanced technology. That had always been humanity's strength. Lyra moved beside him. "We cannot let them see fear. They must not know we are unprepared." Her calmness steadied him, anchoring his thoughts. Together, they watched as shadowy figures moved along the edge of the clearing, glimpsed only through flickers of light. Kale studied their movements, noting patterns, estimating numbers, and identifying potential weaknesses.
Hours passed as they monitored the perimeter.
Kyle learned to move with the Guardians, their silent communication, their ability to blend with the environment. He adapted quickly, his human instincts combining with alien techniques. Lyra observed him, impressed by his adaptability. "You learn fast," she said quietly. "Most humans would falter." "I have to," Kale replied. "If I fail, you could die."
"I won't let that happen!"
His voice was steady, though his heart raced. Night fell over the forest, though the bioluminescent flora provided constant, gentle light. Kale remained awake, keeping watch as Lyra rested. The enemy scouts had not advanced, but he knew they were gathering information. Every sound, every movement in the forest was a potential threat. Yet, amidst the tension, Kale found a strange sense of peace. Here, away from human politics, wars, and familiar dangers, he was part of something larger. His actions mattered in a way he had never experienced before. The next morning, Lyra awoke and approached him.
"We cannot stay hidden forever," she said. "We must leave the sanctuary and seek allies."
"There are factions loyal to me across the sector," but reaching them will be dangerous.
The enemy anticipates every move we make. Kale nodded, already preparing himself.
Then we plan carefully, move quickly, and cover every angle. We survive, and we expose those behind the attack. Their journey began soon after, leaving the sanctuary behind. The forest seemed alive around them, shifting and changing as if responding to their presence. The Guardians led the way, guiding them through hidden paths and protective barriers. Kale marveled at their knowledge, their ability to navigate terrain that would have been impossible for any human. Yet he also noticed how reliant Lyra was on him in certain situations, his strength, his tactical thinking, his ability to make split-second decisions. They crossed rivers of glowing liquid that pulsed with energy, climbed cliffs that seemed to defy gravity, and navigated dense jungles filled with creatures both beautiful and dangerous. Kale's human endurance was tested, but he adapted. His mind remained sharp, calculating risks, devising strategies, and keeping Lyra safe at every turn. One evening, as they rested beside a luminous lake, Lyra spoke softly. "You have changed everything, Kale. Not just for me, but for my people. Your bravery is a bridge between worlds. Humans are not just allies. They are capable of great influence if they choose to act with courage and wisdom." Kale looked at her, humbled. "I never thought of it that way."
"I just did what I had to do. Saving you fell..."
"Right." Lyra's eyes shone with gratitude.
It was more than right. It was necessary.
And it has given hope to those who needed it most. Kale realized then that his journey had already begun in earnest. He had left behind the familiar world of human conflict, stepping into a realm where trust, courage, and intelligence determined survival. The explosion at the station had been only the beginning. Now, he was part of a larger story, one that spanned stars, civilizations, and destinies beyond his imagination. As the night deepened, Kale kept watch once more, scanning the horizon, alert for any sign of danger. The forest was alive with subtle movements, glowing creatures, and distant calls. Somewhere out there, enemies plotted, seeking to strike again. Yet, Kale felt ready, with Lyra by his side, the Guardians protecting them, and his own human determination guiding him. He was prepared to face whatever came next. And so, under the alien sky, Kale Draven began the next stage of his journey. Learning, adapting, and preparing for a battle that would test not only his strength, but his courage, his ingenuity, and his heart. The forest whispered around them, alive with secrets and challenges, and Kale knew that every step forward brought them closer to both danger and destiny. The journey through the alien forest had stretched into days. Kale and Lyra moved with purpose, guided by the Guardians who knew the hidden paths, the safe clearings, and the dangers that lurked beyond sight. Each step tested Kale's endurance, but he had adapted quickly. His human instincts, honed through years of battle, complemented the Guardians' knowledge and alien abilities. He was no longer merely a soldier. He was a protector, a partner, and a strategist. "Kale, stay close," Lyra said as they navigated a narrow ravine. The walls were lined with glowing moss, and the ground was slick with moisture. Strange insects, larger than any Kale had ever seen, skittered along the rocks, their bioluminescent bodies creating moving patterns of light. Kale's eyes darted constantly, scanning for threats. He had learned that in this world, even creatures that appeared harmless could be deadly if startled. The Guardians moved silently around them, creating a living shield, their eyes glowing softly to warn Kale of approaching danger. He felt the strange rhythm of their communication, subtle gestures and movements that carried meaning. He mirrored their vigilance, learning to anticipate what they sensed before it reached him. Every moment was a lesson in survival, a test of focus and awareness. As night fell, they settled near a luminous grove. The light from the flora was bright enough to see, but soft enough to remain hidden from distant observers. Lyra tended to minor injuries with her healing device, while Kale kept watch. The enemy scouts had not been seen for some time, but he could not ignore the possibility that they were still nearby, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
Kale, Lyra said quietly, breaking the silence.
We cannot rely solely on the sanctuary or the forest. The enemy anticipates every move.
We must find allies, those loyal to my cause, and strengthen our position before they act again. Kale nodded, understanding the gravity of her words.
We move cautiously, gather intelligence, and plan every step. If they are surrounding us, we need to break their pattern. The next morning, they resumed their journey. The forest gradually opened into a series of cliffs overlooking vast valleys. From here, Gale could see the distant landscape, dotted with alien settlements and structures hidden among mountains and forests. It was a land alive with possibilities and dangers. The Guardians halted them on a ridge.
"This is where we must make a choice," one said. "The enemy is advancing."
Scouts had been detected moving through the valleys below. If we proceed directly, we risk confrontation. But if we take a longer route, we may be delayed. Kale considered the options carefully. Time was critical. Every delay allowed the enemy to tighten their encirclement, yet rushing blindly could be fatal. He turned to Lyra.
"We cannot afford mistakes. We move fast, but we remain alert."
Every obstacle must be met with strategy, not force alone. Lyra's gaze met his.
Then we trust your judgment, Kale. Lead, and I will follow.
They chose the path through the cliffs, narrow ledges winding around sheer drops. The journey was slow but offered a vantage point over the valleys below. Cal scanned constantly, noting shadows, movement, and the occasional glint of light reflecting from distant devices. He realized they were not alone. The enemy scouts were close, using advanced stealth technology to remain hidden. Every sense had to be sharpened. As they moved, the forest below erupted in sudden chaos. Explosions shook the ground, and Kale spotted enemy ships descending from the sky, their weapons targeting smaller settlements. Lyra gasped, her hands clenching at her sides.
They are attacking the Loyalists, she said.
"We cannot ignore them. A call made a split-second decision. We help them."
"We cannot allow them to be destroyed while we hide." The Guardians hesitated. "It is dangerous."
"The enemy is numerous and well-armed."
"I know the risk," Kale replied. "But leaving innocents to die goes against everything we fight for. We adapt. We fight smart, and we fight together." With that, they descended toward the nearest settlement. The landscape shifted rapidly. Alien structures rising from the valleys, their spires and domes glowing in the alien light. The enemy ships hovered, firing sporadically, creating explosions that sent clouds of dust and debris into the air. Kale and Lyra moved quickly, taking cover behind crystalline walls and debris, coordinating with the Guardians to navigate the battlefield. Kale observed the enemy's tactics. They were methodical, trying to herd the defenders into traps, but he noticed patterns, the way they moved, the timing of their attacks, the gaps in their formation. Using his tactical knowledge, he guided Lyra and the Guardians to exploit these weaknesses. Small ambushes were set, using terrain to their advantage, forcing the enemy into positions where they could be neutralized efficiently. Hours passed in a tense blur. Kale's mind never rested, constantly calculating, predicting, and reacting. Lyra proved herself a capable partner, directing defenders, analyzing enemy movements, and providing crucial insight into local tactics. The human and alien forces worked in unison, blending instinct, intelligence, and experience. By nightfall, the enemy had been repelled, though not without cost. Buildings were damaged, minor casualties occurred, but the settlement had survived. Kale and Lyra stood atop a ridge, overlooking the aftermath. Smoke rose in thin columns from the battle below, and the faint glow of fires painted the landscape in orange and purple hues. Lyra turned to Kale. "You've done more than save me. or even this settlement. You've given hope. The people need that hope, now more than ever. Kale remained silent for a moment, letting the weight of her words sink in. He had always fought for survival, for duty, for instinct. But here, in this alien world, he realized that courage carried a deeper meaning. It was about inspiring others, about creating bonds that transcended worlds, about standing firm when everything seemed against you. Their respite was short-lived. Scouts reported enemy movements again, this time closer and more organized. Kale understood immediately. They were being encircled. The enemy was tightening the noose, herding them toward a battlefield of the enemy's choosing. "We have to move," Kale said.
"If they are encircling us, we must break their formation before it's too late."
Lyra nodded, her face set with determination. "Then, we go, together." They moved swiftly, using every advantage the terrain offered. But narrow passes, dense forests, and steep ridges allowed them to avoid direct confrontation. But the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. Kale guided the Guardians in setting traps and ambush points, forcing the attackers to split and weaken. They moved like shadows, striking strategically, then retreating before the enemy could regroup. At one point, Kyle spotted a massive enemy force advancing through a valley below. Their ships were equipped with cloaking devices, nearly invisible and heavily armed. Lyra's face showed concern, but Kale placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder.
"We can handle this. We have the element of surprise, terrain, and tactics."
"We adapt, we fight, and we survive." He coordinated with Lyra to lead the enemy into a narrow canyon. There, the alien terrain worked to their advantage. Using strategically placed energy nets, traps, and the Guardians' advanced abilities, they created a deadly gauntlet. The enemy, overconfident and unaware of the traps, fell into it. Explosions rocked the canyon, and the attackers were forced into retreat. Kale and Lyra stood together afterward, breathing heavily, the glow from the canyon reflecting in their eyes. "We did it," Lyra said softly. "But this is only the beginning. They will return, stronger, more prepared." Kale nodded, looking out over the dark landscape. The encirclement had been broken. But the threat remained. Every step they took, every move they made, had to be calculated, precise, and courageous. He realized that survival was no longer enough. They had to fight not just for themselves, but for countless lives depending on their actions. As they continued their journey, Kale learned more about Lyra's world. She spoke of the political landscape, the delicate alliances, and the power struggles within her empire. He absorbed every detail, understanding that knowledge could be as deadly as any weapon. Every fact, every observation could turn the tide of battle in their favor. By the time they settled in a hidden grove for the night, Kale had gained not only understanding, but confidence. He had learned to blend human ingenuity with alien strategy, to anticipate movements, and to protect those in his charge. Lyra's faith in him grew, and with it, a bond that transcended words. In the quiet of the glowing forest, Kale reflected on the journey so far. He had faced death, witnessed courage, and discovered a world that challenged everything he had known. The enemy was closing in, encircling them, testing their resolve, but he also realized something vital. Together, with trust, strategy, and determination, they could survive. They could fight back, and they could prevail. The forest whispered around them, alive with unseen energy and hidden threats. Kale remained vigilant, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new enemies, and new opportunities. He had learned that survival alone was not enough. Victory required courage, intelligence, and unwavering resolve. And Kale Draven was ready for whatever awaited him and Lyra in the days to come. The night was quiet, but Kale knew it was only the calm before the storm. The alien forest seemed peaceful, its glowing flora casting gentle light across the ground, but he had learned to trust instinct over appearances. The enemy was closing in, encircling them with relentless precision. Every movement had to be calculated, every decision deliberate. He adjusted his stance, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. Listening to the faint rustle of leaves and distant calls of creatures that inhabited the forest, Lyra moved beside him, her eyes focused yet calm. She had grown stronger during their journey, her confidence bolstered not only by her survival, but by Kale's unwavering presence. She understood strategy, diplomacy, and the fragile balance of her empire. But Kale had taught her another kind of strength, trusting in action, in courage, and in alliances that crossed species and worlds. The Guardians gathered around them, silent and alert. Their luminous eyes scanned every shadow, their bodies poised for rapid movement. Kale admired their discipline. These beings were not only protectors, but warriors with wisdom that stretched across centuries. They communicated without words, subtle shifts in posture and gesture, conveying warnings and instructions. Kale had learned to read these signs, adapting his own movements to align with theirs, creating a seamless unit of human and alien defense. Suddenly, a distant vibration shook the ground. Kale's instinct screamed warning. He crouched low, motioning Lyra to do the same. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the gentle glow dimming as tension filled the air. From the distance, shapes emerged. Enemy scouts, faster and more numerous than before, their ships hovering low, scanning for targets. They had discovered the location of the sanctuary and were preparing to attack. Kale's mind raced. The enemy was strong, but they were predictable. Using the terrain to their advantage would be key. He whispered to Lyra, "We lure them here, into the canyon. It narrows, limits their numbers, and gives us a tactical advantage. We can force them to fight on our terms." Lyra nodded, her gaze steady. "Then we move quickly. Every second counts." They advanced cautiously, moving through hidden paths and dense groves, leading the enemy into the canyon without revealing their full position. Kale coordinated with the Guardians, setting subtle traps, laying energy nets and barriers, and marking ambush points. The enemy, confident and overextended, followed the trail exactly as Kale anticipated. As they entered the canyon, the first wave of enemy scouts descended. Kale and Lyra emerged from the shadows, guiding the Guardians to strike strategically. Energy nets sprang to life, trapping enemy ships in midair. Explosions rocked the canyon as carefully placed charges disrupted their formation. Kale moved among them, coordinating defenses, redirecting fire, and guiding Lyra as she used her knowledge of the terrain to predict enemy maneuvers. The battle was chaotic, yet methodical. Kale relied not only on strength but on intellect, analyzing patterns, predicting attacks, and countering them with precision. Lyra's leadership shone as she rallied the Guardians and Defenders, directing strikes, reinforcing weak points, and ensuring that morale remained high. Together, human and alien, they became a single force, each action complementing the other. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Kale fought tirelessly, dodging blasts, assisting allies, and maintaining focus under relentless pressure. The enemy, though numerous and well-armed, struggled against the combined ingenuity of Kale, Lyra, and the Guardians. Their attacks became desperate, predictable, and vulnerable to countermeasures. Kale seized every opportunity, turning traps into strategic victories, forcing the enemy into confined areas where their technology could not save them. At one critical moment, a massive enemy ship broke through the defenses, descending toward Lyra. Kale reacted instantly, pushing her to safety as a blast struck the canyon wall, sending shards of glowing rock flying. The Guardians intercepted the attackers, their advanced abilities countering the technology with grace and precision. Kale felt the raw energy of the explosion, but he remained focused, moving swiftly to cover the princess and protect the vital positions. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide with both fear and trust. "Kale, the central device. They're trying to activate it. If they succeed, the canyon collapses."
"It will destroy us all!"
Kale's mind raced. The device was a massive energy generator, capable of destabilizing the canyon structure. If it activated, everyone inside would perish.
He assessed the situation, calculating distances, timing, and the capabilities of both friend and foe. "Guardians, cover the flanks," he commanded. "Lyra, I need you to guide me to the device."
We disable it before it triggers. The path was dangerous. Enemy forces swarmed, firing continuously, while debris from earlier blasts threatened to crush anyone in its path. Kale advanced with careful precision, moving in sync with Lyra, using her knowledge of the canyon and the energy flows to avoid hazards. They reached the device, a massive structure pulsating with unstable energy. Kale examined it quickly, realizing that a direct attack would be too dangerous. He needed to think, to use strategy over brute force. He instructed Lyra to create a diversion with the Guardians, while he set a precise energy discharge to overload the device's circuits. Lyra moved swiftly, leading the Guardians in coordinated maneuvers that drew the enemy's attention away from Kale. Energy blasts and tactical strikes disrupted the enemy, giving Kale the precious moments he needed. With steady hands, Kale connected his device to the generator, redirecting the unstable energy back into its containment systems. Sparks flew, and the generator quaked, threatening to explode, but Kale remained focused, adjusting circuits and stabilizing the flow. Finally, with a surge of energy, the device shut down, neutralized before it could cause catastrophe. The enemy forces faltered, their morale shattered. Seeing their central weapon disabled, they retreated, unable to regroup against the combined strength of Kale, Lyra, and the Guardians. The canyon, though scarred by battle, remained intact. Survivors emerged cautiously, and the sound of retreating engines echoed through the valley. Kale collapsed onto the ground, exhausted, but alive. Lyra rushed to his side, helping him to his feet.
"You did it, Kale!"
"You saved us all," she said, her voice filled with relief and admiration. Kale shook his head, breathing heavily. "We did it, together. You, me, the Guardians. Everyone played their part." Lyra smiled, a mixture of gratitude and pride in her expression. "Still, you took the greatest risks. You acted without hesitation when it mattered most. That courage, it is rare, even among humans." Kale felt a surge of humility. He had acted instinctively, without thought of his own safety. Yet in this alien world, instincts combined with strategy, trust, and the support of allies had made all the difference. He realized that true courage was not just in facing danger, but in inspiring and protecting others in moments of crisis. As the first light of the alien dawn touched the canyon, Kale and Lyra surveyed the aftermath. Fires smoldered, wreckage littered the canyon floor, and the soft glow of the forest cast an ethereal light over the scene. The enemy was defeated, their plot exposed, but the victory was bittersweet. The stakes remained high, and the political machinations behind the attack were far from resolved. Lyra turned to Kale. "We must report this to the Council, reveal the faction behind the attacks, and secure the alliances needed to protect the Empire. Your actions have bought us time, but the larger battle is still ahead." Kale nodded, understanding the truth of her words. The station attack, the encirclement, the battle in the canyon. It had been only the beginning. The enemy was cunning and persistent, but now, with intelligence, strategy, and allies, they had a chance to change the course of events. Together, they left the canyon, moving toward a safe location where they could contact loyal factions. Kale observed the landscape, noting opportunities for defense, positions of advantage, and possible threats. He had become more than a soldier. He had become a strategist, a protector, and a symbol of hope for those who had believed survival was impossible. Along the way, Lyra spoke of the future, of rebuilding trust among factions, and of strengthening the bonds between humans and the Arindor Empire. Kale listened, realizing that his role extended beyond physical protection. His understanding of human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability made him a bridge between worlds, capable of influencing events in ways that neither species could alone. The journey was long, but with each step, Kale's confidence grew. He had faced death, adapted to an alien world, and protected a princess who now relied on him not only for safety but for guidance. He understood that the future depended on courage, intelligence, and the ability to act decisively when the moment demanded it. Finally, they reached a fortified outpost where the loyal factions had gathered. Lyra presented the evidence of the attacks, exposed the enemy faction, and began to consolidate power. Kale stood beside her, silent yet vigilant, aware that their work was not yet complete. But for the first time, he felt a sense of accomplishment. They had survived, they had fought, and they had emerged stronger. In the quiet of the outpost, Kale reflected on everything that had transpired, from the explosion on the station to the alien forest, the encirclement, and the canyon battle. He had learned that survival alone was not enough. True strength lay in courage, intelligence, and the bonds forged through trust and loyalty. Lyra approached him once more, her eyes filled with gratitude.
Kale, your bravery has changed everything.
You have not only saved me, but also given hope to countless lives. The Empire will remember your actions, and so will I. Kale looked at her, a faint smile crossing his face.
I did what anyone would do for those who could not defend themselves.
But I will continue to fight, to protect, and to learn. This is only the beginning. The alien sun rose higher, casting light across the fortified outpost and the surrounding forests. Kale knew that challenges remained, that enemies would rise again, and that the path ahead would be filled with uncertainty. Yet, with Lyra by his side, the Guardians protecting them, and his human determination guiding him, he felt ready for whatever came next. Together, they faced the future, not just as soldier and princess, but as allies, friends, and protectors of a fragile peace. The journey had tested them, shaped them, and revealed the courage within. And as the winds of the alien world whispered through the forests, Kale Draven understood that heroism was not about glory or recognition, but about the unwavering will to stand, to protect, and to fight for the lives of those who could not protect themselves. And so, the story of survival, courage, and the bond between human and alien continued, marking the beginning of a new era for both species, forever changed by the bravery of one human who dared to shield an alien princess from a lethal explosion, and lived to face the challenges that awaited beyond.